In today's video, guys, we are going to be getting that RS3 engine in the white Skoda Octavia VRS. There are some things that we need to do before that can happen and have a general overview. We've also got the turbo, the Daza turbo, which I have actually trial pre-fitted here. We have got some custom lines I need to explain and check that they fit as well. There is a few things to do. We've got rocker cover to change as well, engine mounts. Dan from Litco kindly come and picked up the engine ECU and the mechatronics unit out the gearbox yesterday. He's going to go back and basically demod them, which means that when I try and start it with the Skoda ECU, it doesn't throw up a hissy fit. However, there may be some problems because we think it may have been MRC or TVS stage 1 mapped on both. So there may be a few issues with the ECUs yet, but hopefully, fingers crossed, they come back okay. And yeah, I was looking at this the other day and there's just so much more broken than I thought. There's loads of connectors. Oh yeah, I found something else. Look, another coolant pump damaged. There's loads of little bits of wiring damaged. Luckily, we can address most of that once the engine's actually in the car, because without the front end, that easy to work on. So it is just a case of getting this turbo all matched up. And you may be wondering, where's the red Octavia VRS? Well, I've kind of got bored filming it. I'm sure you have as well. That has been done, and it is up on Compete for Cars now, guys. So click the link in the description. Go and grab some tickets for that. At the time of filming, there's around about 5,500 tickets left, I think. I have filmed some footage of it, which I will show later on in this video. But the last two videos, we haven't done much RS3 content, and it's been annoying me, so it must be annoying you as well. So that will be to come later on in this video. But for now, I think we'll start on the turbo. And as you can see, I've just mocked it up here. Haven't put it on tight or anything like that. I've literally just got it in position, because we have to also change the actuator, because this is a pressure-fed actuator, whereas the old one was a vacuum, so we need to change that. And also, somewhere I have some oil lines. Here's one of them. So instead of buying a kit which was like 200 odd quid to basically adapt the other turbo's hoses so they fit the turbo in the block, I kind of just chopped and changed. So I had all the hoses for both turbos. So what I ended up doing was cutting off the connection bits of them and then just welding them, as you can see there. I obviously took it to the fabricator to get welded properly, welding them to the other hose bracket. So I've done a cut and shut, but although it sounds bad, it should look a lot cleaner, because they should just look like factory hoses. So we've got the original hoses from the Daza turbo, and then we've welded them to the original connections to the CZGB block. And that should result in a nice clean finish. So that is what we're going to do first. Try and get all these coolant and oil hoses for the turbo fitted, get the turbo fitted properly, then we can lift it up, get the new engine mounts that I've got as well, change the rocker cover, and get it in the white Octavia just there. So there were two lines I needed to fabricate, one oil line and one coolant line. Lucky the lines for both turbos were the same length, so all we had to really change was a connection to the block. This meant they went on straight away, first time, all bolted up well, and then just hoovered up the block, getting rid of all the straw and rubbish and mud that was there, just so we didn't cause any more fires. And then I got my turbo bolted on all properly and connected all the coolant and oil lines up. So that is the turbo now fully bolted to the block. Our oil and coolant lines are now all in position and bolted up. We have our oil feed pipe here all good. Our coolant feed pipe here all good with the factory welded new connectors. Then we've got our oil return, which I haven't had to modify, and our coolant return. I don't know, it might be a feed or return, I don't know. I haven't had to modify that one either. That went straight in and all bolted up nice. I did remove this feed pipe and just put some oil in there, because I don't know when the last time this had oil in it. Just there's some oil when we first start the car. But that is it, all now good. The only thing we've got to do now is replace our actuator, because I believe this is a pressure-fed one and the old turbo was a vacuum-fed one, so we have to change the actuator. It may be the other way around, I don't know. But we are replacing it with this Turbo Smart 10 PSI actuator, which will sort everything out, I don't know, and it'll make it work, put it that way. So removing the actuator, really simple. There was just two 10mm nuts and then just the rod off the turbo. Fitting the new one was a little bit more tricky, because the studs on the new Turbo Smart actuator was slightly shorter than the original, so I did have to adapt the housing of the turbo ever so slightly just so I can get the nuts on. But once you've done that, it was really simple and went on fine. I then moved on to the rocker cover, because that one's got a massive hole in it, which is obviously no good. Come off fairly simple, and luckily there was no damage to the cams. It looked really clean in there, and that is because it is a sealed unit, so the top of the rocker cover is sealed off, and I couldn't get any debris fall onto the cams anyway, so that's a big relief. And then refitting it with all new seals looks nice and shiny on the top there. Bit fiddly with a high pressure fuel pump having to be removed and fuel pipes, but other than that, it went pretty well. Now, it's a miserable day. It's just raining all the time at the minute, so I don't want to go out and get wet and get some lunch, and that is where YFood have kindly sponsored today's video, and they've sorted me out with lunch in a bottle here. Now, YFood is a meal replacement drink. It can be replaced with the breakfast, lunch, or even dinner. It has 26 different vitamins and minerals in. It is gluten-free, it is lacto-free, and yeah, they have around 500 calories per bottle, and it keeps you full for between 3 and 5 hours. So it's got everything you need in this little bottle here. If you're too busy, you're always on the go, or like at the minute, it's just too wet, can't be bothered to go and get a drink. These are absolutely perfect. And at the minute as well, guys, they're doing a YouTube car rebuild special limited edition, and this is a Matt Armstrong limited edition as well in Happy Banana. But there's also other ones available. I've already drunk this one, so that is useless. So go click the link in my description, guys. Go to the website, use my discount code, which I'll put at the bottom there, and go give them a try. So a big thanks to YFood for sponsoring today's video. So with the car now back in and on the ramp, we need to remove the exhaust system first because we don't need any of that. That's all the GPF rubbish, and also that's for a KO3 downpipe. We do have a Daza, so a facelift RS3 downpipe coming, so that will be replacing this. So we can get rid of this, make it easy to get the engine in. And for now, I think I'm just going to take the engine and box off of the subframe and just try and fit it in with the original subframe just for now. It should go in. I've got a new engine mount on the side of it, and I've got a new gearbox mount as well, so hopefully it can just go straight on and get it into position, and I can worry about the subframe things a bit later on. Mainly because I don't know if it's damaged yet. I know that obviously the wishbones are definitely damaged, and the steering rack, I don't know if we're going to use I don't know if I can, if we just leave that subframe and use the original one. I know this one's alley and the other one's steel, so there may be some differences. I don't know yet. But with the engine mounted to the car and in position, we can start looking at the damage on the front, because upon closer inspection, I'll show you in a moment, but there is quite a lot of damage in this front end here. And now I'm just thinking, it probably would have been cheaper just to buy an engine and gearbox out of a cheaper car that had no damage to it, because I think I'm going to be in for a big bill. So with the engine now nearly in, I've actually managed to get the engine mount on in position, but as you can see, we're slightly twisted and the gearbox isn't quite lining up yet. And that is because we're twisted on the gearbox side of things. As you can see, it's pulled out slightly, and that's because I had to use the original damaged gearbox mount, because that has our engine support on it, which what we're using for the crane. So I do need to get rid of that. So I have bought the jack in, which I'm going to slide under the gearbox, jack it up, take the weight of the gearbox, remove this side of the engine crane, so then hopefully we can just push the gearbox back a bit, bring it up, and that should then put in line our gearbox mount, so we can just bolt it straight on, and that should then tweak and give us our other half a hole that we're missing on the engine mount. So finally, with the engine and gearbox now in the Octavia, believe it or not, that was actually the easy part. What now proceeds is going to be much more difficult. I'm starting to regret buying this crash damaged engine or trying to fit it, because under closer inspection, there is so much broken on the front of this engine. Pretty much every component that you see here up to the block needs replacing, even wiring as well. So oil cooler broke, alternator broke, aircon compressor broke, bracket for aircon and AC broke. We have coolant pump broke. We have whatever more coolant stuff broke in there. We have brackets broken. We have more brackets bent. We have pipe broke up there. We've got all the wiring with all the connectors Most of them are either broken or damaged. Main wiring connector here, look, pins hanging out, more damage, broken housing again, and also our inlet has been compressed as well. So that is actually, you can't see it from here, but that is no longer round, that is bent as well. Gearbox casing broke, sump dented, needs replacing, boost pipes, wiring for oil level sensor broke as well. So pretty much, no, in fact, actually, no. Everything you see here, up to the block, needs replacing. And that ain't gonna be cheap. And also, I was pretty confident anyway, but we will need to replace the subframe because the gearbox is actually hitting it and it can't get into position. So yeah, we're gonna have to replace that. But I was fairly confident we're gonna have to do that anyway. So I mentioned early on in the video that Dan from LitCode kindly come up to deimmobilize my mechatronics for the gearbox and the ECU for the car. Basically, it just enables it to plug straight into the Octavia and able to start the car without it throwing up an immobilizer fault and not starting. However, we did think that the ECUs, both of them might have been remapped before because they've been password protected and the password's been changed, which usually indicates a remap. That has been confirmed. He took them back with him to his base and tested them on the bench. Unfortunately, both of them have been remapped in the past and they've both had the passwords changed. So there's nothing we can actually do to deimmobilize it to get it then plug into the Octavia to start. The only thing we can do is we have one last chance. Otherwise, I think I'm going to have to buy a new mechatronics and a new ECU. But ideally, I want the car on the ground so I can get access so we can have a look at the dash situation. But for now, I think I'm going to take off everything that's damaged on this front end, lay it all on the ground, and ring up Audi and get some prices on all new parts. Now, let me know in the comments, have a guess how much you think all this is going to be. Now, I will include the alternator and the air compressor. Realistically, I'll probably try and find second-hand ones of those, but I'd imagine everything here on the front end that I need, 2.5 grand is a guess. Maybe more. No, I'm going to go 2,600 quid. That's what I'm going for. So you may have been thinking in this video, why haven't I stripped the parts off this engine before I got to this point? And the truth is, I just thought I'd wait till it was in the car because it's just a much easier height to work on and a lot more access now. It's not stuck on a pallet as well. In hindsight, probably should have looked at this beforehand because we've got a lot of damage. But I removed the compressor, the alternator, the oil cooler housing, also some coolant pumps, some coolant pipes, starter motor is damaged, and a lot of wiring and wiring connectors too. Right, so I've removed now most parts from the engine and I've got them all down here. So we've got AC compressor, alternator, oil cooler, actually, and it turns out, and the oil filter housing as well. I completely just forgot. I was like, oh, where's the oil filter housing? It's just completely missing. So you've got oil filter housing, which the cooler bolts onto. We've got a few brackets as well. We've got our intake flat motor, which you can see now better, bent in there, look. There you go, look. So we've got that, we've got some gearbox cooler pipes, a few idler pulleys, and then we've got loads of little connectors like these, for example. We've also got a fuel pressure switch as well down there, and some coolant pumps as well. Now, there are some other bits still that I've missed off, but for now, I think I've got like 95% of the parts that I need to get it fixed. Right, so for the rear brake problem, I know I had a problem when I picked up the car, the rear brakes were seized on, and I've tried to clean them up as much as I can, but they're still no good. So if you look at the free play in the, so look, the handbrake doesn't actually bite till about here, and that's because the pistons are actually semi-seized on. So with the handbrake off, look, if I put it in gear and try and pull away, if you listen to the brakes binding, and that's with the handbrake off, look, and you can just see it's no good. Now, I actually stripped the near side rear caliper first, but I didn't actually find a problem with it when I stripped it down, so I fitted it back and assumed it was the offside rear. So I stripped the offside rear and started taking it apart and found pretty quickly it wasn't actually the piston that was seized in the caliper, it was actually the handbrake mechanism that was seized and it was stopping it. And as you can see here, look, it's really rusty, and that was what rotates inside the caliper, and that not being able to rotate is what stopped the handbrake from working properly. So the first thing I did was obviously clean all that up properly, and as you can see here, that the hole for where it goes into the caliper is completely corroded as well, so that needs fully cleaning up, and that is probably our problem. So that is the handbrake, or the caliper all stripped, and there is our handbrake. Now, I thought I'd just pause it here and explain exactly what this little thing is, because this is effectively your parking brake in full. On the right-hand side, you've got your little spline thread, a bit like a wiper arm that sits on a wiper motor, and on your left-hand side, you've got a thread here, which you can see twizzles outwards. Now, what happens is, when you actuate your parking brake, it twists the spline side on the right-hand side, and that effectively then pushes out the piston in the brake caliper, and that is how it holds your handbrake on. And obviously, when you release it, it just winds it back off. It's only about a 2 or 3 mil movement, but that's all you need for the parking brake to work. Brake element of it, and that was the part that was corroded. You saw in the little picture there that this bit was all corroded and everything. So I've cleaned all that up as best as I can, and we are going to refit it with all new O-rings here and new grease as well. So I've cleaned out all the inside. I've had this in a parts washer, got as much off as I can. Inevitably there is still a little bit there, but the inside of it is all perfectly clean. Everything's been cleaned on the top here as well. So I'm now just going to rebuild it using the old parts and 2 new seals, and hopefully that will fix our handbrake issue. Right, so after a long while, I think I've rebuilt it. I've obviously replaced 2 seals, but haven't been able to replace everything because I think I got the wrong kit. But the main reason for obviously stripping this was because the handbrake part of it was seized, not the actual piston itself. So if I now try and pull these 2 in, it should push out the motor or the piston, and then should let it come back in again. So if I do that, I mean, it does. It works now. Works lovely now. Whether it's enough to actually put the handbrake on or not, I don't actually know. Maybe because I've just pushed it all the way back, that's why. It is coming out and going back in. Anyway, I'll put it back together and we'll find out. Right, I wasn't actually happy with that piston not returning on its own. I have now since, if you can see, piston coming out, and it now goes back, and it's only about a 2 or 3 more movement. If you can see it, the piston now actually retracts, and what happened is the circlip that holds the handbrake little motor, it's not a motor, but the little handbrake, it looks like a motor, the circlip that holds that in, the circlip wasn't actually in properly. It's quite hard to actually get fully in position, so that's why it wasn't held in position, which is why I was having to push it back manually. But now I've took it back apart, pushed that circlip in properly, and now we are good to go. Right, car's all back on the ground now, everything all good, so we just need to drive it out. Spoiler, I have already tested the handbrake, obviously. So you know it's going to be good, but it is very good. I mean, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to lie, that is one of the best handbrakes I've ever clicked up with resistance and coming back off. Brake pedal's good. And I'll be honest, I've never stripped a rear brake caliper or a front brake caliper before, purely because I just assumed it'd be a really fiddly and really messy job, and I just thought it'd be easier just to replace them. So that's the first time I've done it, and I'm kind of glad I've done it now, because it wasn't too difficult. It's really satisfying doing it as well. And obviously, yeah, I've saved 100 quid on a caliper that I couldn't even find anyway. So it's just a testament. It's well worth giving things a try, even for the first time. I don't know why I've not done one in 10, 15 years of doing this. It was actually really simple and satisfying. So just goes to show, give everything a go, really, doesn't it? So handbrake's all good. Now this car is all done. Let's just give it a quick road test. But yeah, she's all good. Now, a minute ago, I did say about the ECU and the TCU issue, not being able to deimmobilize them because it's been remapped. Now, there is one potential way around that, and that is if I had the original instrument cluster, which is where the immobilizer is, from the RS3, which I did actually take. I do have it, but it's whether we can plug it straight into the Skoda, and it's whether the instrument cluster connector is the same. So I have just removed the clocks from the front of the Skoda. We have them both here. And as it turns out, not only are they the same shape and size, they do have the same connector. So there's the Skoda one, and here is the RS3 one. So they are the same. So I can plug it in, but will it work? I don't know. So, right, so I have just plugged it in, and it does look, it is slightly a different shape. Look, it's not completely filling the hole, but it would be pretty cool if I could keep the RS clocks. Right, so I've just plugged the battery on, so now I've plugged the clocks in, the clock should light up. And also, I'm about to find out how many miles this engine's done, because I never knew how many miles the car had done when it was a crash, because obviously there's no battery, the clocks never worked, and I could never power them up, so I never knew how many miles it'd done. But I should now have a mileage on those dash clocks, and I think it was quite a low mileage car. But I'm about to find out how many miles this engine and gearbox has done. Let me know what you reckon. So I can... Oh, we have lights, Ooh, there you go, 38,900 miles. So that is a very low mileage engine considering. Now if we turn the ignition on, what happens? Oh, look at that. Yeah, it's having a right hissy fit, but stuff works, which is pretty cool. RS3 clocks in the Skoda Octavia. Interesting. So now there may be a slight possibility of getting the ECU and the mechatronics demobilized to work with this car. But obviously, that's not something we can do in today's video. So let's finish the video off by revealing how much all the parts come to that I've just phoned up Audi and got all new part numbers for. And I can reveal that, yeah, I'm in a bit of a pickle, and I may need to go down a slightly different road, because the parts for, or the new price for all these parts that I've just removed and added up come in, I guess, 2,600 quid. Actually, I was quite a bit wrong. Comes into a smidge under £6,000. Pretty sure I could go and buy a whole new engine for that. So, yeah. Subscribe, please, guys, if you haven't already, because there may be some drastic changes. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but yeah, £6 grand's not great, is it? So, as always, guys, thank you very much for watching. If you do enjoy these videos, please do like and subscribe. Follow me on the RS3, Skoda Octavia VRS3 journey. Also, go grab your tickets on the Skoda Octavia VRS. Oh, I'm going to get confused now. Anyway, go grab your tickets. Have a good weekend, guys. I don't even know when this video's going out. Yeah, you can just tell my head's a mess. Bloody £6 grand. Cheers, guys.